Thank you so much for allowing me to spend a few moments with you to meet your language arts team and to share with you the Teaching the Language Strand program. I understand that some of you have had a chance to look at the Teaching the Language Strand introductory video, and while it's great to have an overview, I know that teachers want to get their hands on the materials that they may be using in their own classrooms. And so I'm happy to be here to take a few moments to present the materials and to get your questions about how to teach the language strand to your 6th, 7th, 8th students here at Aardvark Middle School. As you know, the language strand covers grammar, usage, mechanics, spelling, vocabulary, and the knowledge of use, or knowledge of language, which is the application of all of the language conventions in the reading, writing, speaking, and listening context. I've already met with Principal McNerney, and apparently he thought enough of the program to be able to refer my products to you. I did leave a catalog. I see it right there on the table, because we do offer other fine ELA and reading products. Our focus is levels 4 through 8. And so, of course, Aardvark Middle School fits in nicely into that area. Yes, to answer your question, our Teaching the Language Strand program does address each of the standards in the language strand. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty impressed that you actually know about the language strand. Of course, we've been focusing, and rightfully so much over the last few years as we've rolled out Common Core on the reading and writing strands. But now, especially as we're getting back the results of the PARC and the SBAC assessments, we're seeing the instructional gaps in grammar, usage, mechanics, spelling, and vocabulary. And of course, your Common Core adoptions, as you well know, do a great job in the reading and writing strands, but not so much on the explicit systematic instruction that is needed to reflect the rigor of the Common Core state standards in the language areas. Let's walk through the 7 key components of the Teaching the Language Strand program. The program itself has both print and digital versions of the Teacher's Edition for interactive display in the classroom and consumable workbooks. These workbooks are completely different for each grade level to provide that instructional continuity from grades 6, 7, and 8 here at Aardvark. They're reasonably priced. $12.99 per is about 6 cents per copy. I don't even think we could accomplish 6 cents per copy on our school copiers. Let's go through the components, as I said, in the trifold. We'll open on up, and we can kind of follow along here. We have number 1, twice per week, scripted grammar, usage, and mechanics lessons. These 2 per week, 20 to 25-minute lessons go through all of the grammar, usage, mechanics, grade level standards. Number 2, twice per week language application openers. These 5-minute bell ringers will reinforce and give students to practice all of their language conventions, concepts, and skills learned. Number 3, weekly spelling pattern tests and spelling worksheet. Students here at Aardvark still need the orthographic instruction and the sound spellings to provide that level of structural analysis and connection to vocabulary that's so important in our Tier 2 vocabulary as we're working through acquiring academic language across the strands and content areas. Number 4, twice per week, vocabulary worksheets with vocabulary study cards covering the language strand 4, 5, and 6 standards. These include multiple meaning words, Greek and Latinates, dictionary thesaurus resources, idiom, context clues, word relationships, connotative meanings, and academic words built upon the research-based academic word list in a 4-square vocabulary instructional methodology. Additionally, number 5, biweekly unit tests and summative spelling assessments. Teaching the Language Strand is an assessment-based program with diagnostic, formative assessments in each and every instructional component and the summative assessments for program analysis and adjustment. Number 6, diagnostic, as we said, grammar usage mechanics and spelling assessments with remedial worksheets. The strength of this program is, again, catching up our students while we keep up with the rigorous grade level standards. Perfect for your EL population here at Aardvark, your special education kids, and let's face it, a number of your kids are below grade level standards in these areas of the language strand. And number 7, the appendices, with syllable worksheets, review games, reference tools, every resource to address the individual needs of their students. So now let's take a few moments to walk through the specific lessons in our program samples, and each of you has a copy of our blue program samples booklet, and this includes grades 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Of course, we'll focus on grades 6, 7, and 8. Why don't we meet in the middle, and let's open on up to our 7th grade section. I also brought copies for each of the grade levels to be able to share with you so that you'll be able to see what the product is. And so I'll go ahead and pass those out right now. And you can skim through as I do a little overview of the samples themselves. Additionally, I brought in the teacher's edition here. It's heavy, I warn you. The teacher's edition consists of the print version, as you see here, but you also get all of the digital files for interactive display. All of the lessons are formatted so that the students in the rear of the class can easily see the display without you having to manipulate the size on your computer. So let's walk through and get your questions. Feel free to interrupt. This is your time, and I'd love to listen to your feedback as to what you need. On our first page, we have the scripted teacher lesson, and the introductory paragraph provides an excellent review connecting to students' prior knowledge and defining terms. The lesson is stated here in concise language with good examples, and the practice exercise to apply the lesson has the answers here, and I'll show you how it looks on the formatting for the interactive display. Not only do we have in the practice lesson mistakes to identify, we also have correct usage of the focused concept, skill, or rule. So students have to discriminate between proper use and errant use. Similarly, the grammar and usage lesson is laid out in this format with another practice section as well. So back to the blue book here, we see the scripted lesson on the grammar and usage lesson, and turn the page. Here we get to the second part of the lesson, in which students fill in a simple sentence diagram. No, they don't draw them out. They just fill in the blanks to focus on the grammar and usage rule. And it was out of popularity for many, many years, but teachers do see the value of the visual representation. The answers to the sentence diagram are found in the interactive display. Now, teaching the language strand is not about teaching grammar, usage, and mechanics in isolation. In fact, key components of each of the lessons involves instruction within the reading and writing context. Every language conventions lesson has a mentor text. Sources will be contemporary authors for adolescents, as well as some of the great thinkers. Students read and see how these mentor texts are exemplars of not only great thoughts, but usage of that grammar principle. Students respond to the mentor text in their own writing by applying the grammar and usage concept or skill. Every language conventions lesson, as well as every instructional component in the Teaching the Language strand, has a formative assessment to inform the teacher as to whether the concept or skill has been mastered or additional instruction is needed. In the language conventions, we use simple sentence dictations in order to assess whether students have mastered the mechanics and mastered the grammar and usage, skill, rule, or concept. Students completely self-correct in the student workbooks, and here's an example of the student workbook page. This is an efficient use, I think you'd agree, of your class time. Additionally, twice per week, we teach the application of the grammar and usage concepts in our language application writing openers. These language application writing openers are 5 to 10 minute lessons taught twice a week to apply all of the language conventions in the reading, writing, listening, and speaking context. These address language strand number 3. An advantage of our workbooks is that the entire text of every lesson is presented in the workbooks. No more wasting valuable time having students write down from the board or in composition books the entire lesson. Instead, teaching students to annotate, highlight, or take margin notes on the materials is an efficient use of their time. Next we have our spelling worksheets. These spelling worksheets, one per week, are spelling sorts teaching students to discriminate among the sound spellings. The weekly spelling lists are not silly themed words based upon favorite colors, but they are orthographic spelling patterns that each of your 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students needs to be able to connect to that vocabulary and build their academic language. Just one tip for you. Most teachers are going toward bi-weekly spelling tests. And the bi-weekly spelling test saves class time and can also be used in conjunction with our bi-weekly unit tests. In the Teaching the Language Strand program, we provide several options for instruction of the weekly spelling list and spelling sorts. One involves creating a personal spelling list whereby we use the diagnostic assessment on Monday. Students write down the words they missed and then supplement from the appendix resources, commonly confused words, spelling demons, homonyms, and of course mistakes made in the student's own writing. The vocabulary worksheets are a highlight of the program. Teachers love the breadth of study of vocabulary, and these worksheets themselves can be used during class time or as perfect homework assignments. It takes about 10 minutes per worksheet for students to complete. The unit tests include a matching section to get at the definitions and identification of key concepts and rules, but also include an application section in the context, again, of writing to see if students have indeed mastered the grammar, usage, mechanics, and vocabulary of that unit. Here we have the vocabulary component as well. And again, vocabulary here in the context of writing. A strength of the program here is not only the explicit instruction, but what do we do with students with learning challenges, with students who have fallen behind? So let's flip back to the last blue sheet and see how the Teaching the Language Strand program addresses the progressive skills review section in the language strand. The Common Core authors support what teachers have been saying for years, that instruction in the language strand is a cyclical process and that review is necessary at each grade level. We use review according to the diagnostic assessments provided in the program to determine what students know and what students do not know. The diagnostic mechanics assessment, here's an example out of that assessment, the grammar and usage assessment, and the diagnostic spelling assessment. These are whole class assessments used to pinpoint areas of relative deficits for your students. Teachers are able to easily record the data from these whole class assessments on progress monitoring matrices. Teachers love seeing the progress of their students as they master the individual deficits through corresponding remedial worksheets. Parents love to see that progress as well, as do principals. The matrices also encourage students to set goals as to their progress, and students work at their own individual pace to master those areas of relative deficit. We'll take just a quick look at a few of the remedial worksheets. Right here is an example of a grammar worksheet. Notice the clear focus, the connection again to the writing, the practice exercises, short but to the point, and again, that formative assessment in each of the instructional components. Students complete the worksheet. They go to the back of the room where you have the answer booklet. The answer booklet there is used for students to self-correct their own worksheet. They self-correct in a different color pen or pencil, learning from their mistakes. And then they use that feedback in order to complete the right section, which is the formative assessment. Students come up to the teacher's desk and present the worksheet. The teacher glances at the practice section to make sure that it's been completed. The teacher then focuses in on the formative assessment, usually 1 or 2 sentences, to see if students have mastered the skill. For example, this is on the short superlative modifiers. We've got a nice section of identification, practice, how short superlative modifiers are used to improve coherency in writing, a short practice section, and then the assessment. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that we want students to apply their knowledge of a short superlative modifier and use it in their own writing context. Here's a mechanics worksheet. This one focuses on periods with abbreviations, initials, and acronyms, and it follows the same format. All of the remedial worksheets follow the same format. Think about the continuity of instruction if your language arts team decides to purchase the Teaching the Language Strand program. 6th grade students, 7th grade students, 8th grade students will be exposed to the same language of instruction, the same practice, the same methodology throughout their 3 years here at Aardvark. The instructional scope and sequence, which I'd like to show you after our presentation, will demonstrate exactly where your 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders need to be in all areas of grammar, usage, mechanics, spelling, and vocabulary. Rather than reinventing the wheel, whether you decide to purchase our program or not, you'll appreciate that scope and sequence of instruction. Here's one more example of a remedial worksheet that we have on subjects and predicates following the same exact instructional procedures. And our spelling worksheet of the discrete sound spelling patterns found on the diagnostic test include a remedial worksheet in the same instructional format. The appendices cover a wealth of resources, including a complete syllabication program. So thank you so much for allowing me to spend some time walking you through the sample lessons of the Teaching the Language Strand program. I'm going to leave behind the instructional scope and sequence, as well as links to some resources that I think you're going to find extremely valuable. We offer our diagnostic grammar, usage, mechanics, and spelling assessments absolutely free. Why not give one of the assessments to one of your classes to see exactly what their diagnostic needs are? Additionally, we offer a 2-week test drive of each of the instructional components in the program. After all, your language arts team knows what works best for your students.